Okay, good afternoon everyone. I want to have some participation today, and probably participation in the form of questions that you might have about number one, the assignment, number two, the exam. But also we're going to cover just a little bit of that e-commerce fraud, okay? Why should we do this? Because just e-commerce is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to affect your jobs in the future. So this is your, in some ways, if you didn't get the first half of this unit, forensic accounting, this second half where they talked about last week, e-commerce fraud, but more consumer fraud, scams. You looked at the difference between the two. This week, looking at e-commerce fraud, which is now talking about merchant fraud. And there's overlap, it's a grey area. It's going to affect your future. All right, it's already affecting you. How many of you have participated in e-commerce? Oh, come on, everyone put their hand up.
Who's bought something online?
Who has bought something online? Yeah. And who has returned something that you bought online? Anyone?
Yes.
And who has decided, I want to return it, but has been told, please don't return it, just keep it, but we're going to give you your money back? Anyone? Why do they do that? Pardon?
Was it more work?
Yeah, the transaction costs of receiving your returned product and then disposing of it is even greater than not, just keep it, all right, here's your money back, right? So, cool, all right, so e-commerce is different from bricks and mortar in a number of ways, but there are some overlaps, and I'll just present. There's a few key slides that I just want to bring to your attention. We'll have a look at some questions. We'll do the Kahoot, and then we take some questions on the assignment. All right, does that sound like a plan? And I think the most interesting data that I want to show you is, if you look at the examples I got from Australia, right? Now, how did I get that? Well, with the assistance of GPT, I was able to get this table together. All right. Oh, by the way, if you can't do that by now with GPT, then you're behind. Okay. Am I clear? Hello. You're hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. You should be able to do stuff like this. Just bang. All right. You should be ahead of me. Okay. All right. So practice. If you can't do this, make sure that's in your arsenal before you go out and interview for a job, okay? Because you'll be expected to do stuff like that anyway. All right. All right. Notice I gave you all these examples here, fraud, and then I said, okay, wasn't I telling you when we get to chapter 17? Oh, this is different from consumer fraud. Well, yes and no. If you look at the examples of chargeback fraud, return fraud, payment fraud, and identity theft, it's both consumer fraud and e-commerce fraud. Okay, it overlaps. It's not until you get to the vendor supply chain type of frauds that it starts to affect merchants more. All right, and that's why when we go down, if we go and look at supplier fraud, that's a big gulp of merchant fraud, because that's where the merchant is between the supplier and you, the consumer. All right. And if we go down technology and data fraud, yes, it does affect merchants, probably much more than the consumer on its own. All right. So just look at the data as an answer to the question, what are the similarities and difference between consumer fraud and e-commerce fraud, all right? So don't just read the definition in the textbook, look at the data, all right? As examples so you understand the difference, all right? Okay, I introduced you to some frameworks during the semester, and what was our famous triangle? Come on, what was it?
Triangle.
Hello?
Perceived pressures, rationalization,
Yeah,
opportunity.
we've got the pressure, right? And what have we got on this side?
Rationale.
Yeah, let's put
Rationalization.
rationalisation. And what's at the bottom?
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Okay, remember, closed book, you have a closed book exam, okay? All right, so pay attention, all right? Okay. There's overlap, right? Chapter 17, but it goes back to chapters 5 and 6 and 3 and 4. It's mentioning, and I just want to show you the connection. All right, so what happens in when we get chapter 17, this is what is happening. We're saying, oh, forget about that, because we are dealing through transactions with people we don't even know, we may not even meet in our lifetime. So there's no relationship. There's no employee-employer contract, so to speak. Okay? If there is a contract, it's an agency contract. Maybe it's a gig economy contract, but not a normal employee inside the organisation, or customer merchant, where the customer comes in physically and buys something and walks out. This is on bless you. This is online. You do not see the customer doesn't see you. Okay? When I set up the China Sourcing Academy, but with my partner, this was back in 2015-16, our first client was this lady from Queensland who paid us $1,000 online. We set up this online training course. Did we ever meet her? No. Did we get the $1,000? Yes. Did she get access to our online course? Yes. That's it. All right. That's e-commerce, right? Okay. All right. So, all right. This is gone. This is gone. But you've got the opportunity, you still have to manage. And so we're going to bring and manage. How do we manage it? We have another triangle. This is where you need to make that connection with chapter 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Because this other triangle, we're talking about, all right, you've got to think, there's the CE, okay? There's the R, okay, there's the R, and down the bottom there is the, put your hand up if you know any of these. Hello? They talk about in chapter 17, we're talking about CE, for those on this side if you need glasses here, we're talking about the CE, we're talking about the risk, and we're talking about SAPI, all right? Hands up if you've heard any of these before. All right, what does C stand for? Yell it out.
Control environment.
Yes, control environment, yeah. All right? Right back at the early stage, chapter 3, chapter 4, vicinity, right? All right? It's mentioned in chapter 17, all right? It's the control environment, right? So you know what the control environment is? Two circles. What's this first circle? Creating a culture of honesty, all right? Top down. Remember, tone at the top, all right? And what was this one?
Eliminating fraud opportunity.
Eliminating fraud opportunities. All right, so that's this part, control environment. Then the risk. What are we doing here? This is the new part. The camera operator tells me to come over this side. All right, the risk. All right, this is the new part where there's 3 parts to that. Okay, A triangle inside a triangle inside a triangle. All right? I love triangles. I love it. All right? But the first part is the control environment. The second part is the EE. And the third part is the ID. So what are those three? If you get those three, you know everything else. Why? Because all of you know SAPID, don't you? Yes or no? Put your hand up here. Have you heard of SAPID before? All right, you've heard of that before. All right, separation of duties, independent checks, authorizations. Documentation. The P stands for load. Good to know for the exam. Huh? All right. Cat got your tongue? Going back to chapter 3, chapter 4 areas. All right. So, SAPID, you already know that. All right. Right. Control environment. Control environment. All right. So that's the CE, control environment here. But here's the new thing for chapter 17. Here is the new thing. This 1 and 2. All right. This is electronic. E. What's the other E? Help me here. EE. Electronic exchange. All right. That's the big difference, chapter 17, electronic exchange. And what is this one?
Intrusion detection?
Intruder detection. Okay, so that's it. All right, that's 17. All right, so risk, you've got three parts. Control environment, the EE and the ID. So this is your other triangle, okay? Control environment, that's what this is over here. This is new, this is new. That's what's new in chapter 17. Okay, so just trying to bring all these concepts together again. All right, what? Remember, electronic exchange, intruder detection. Electronic exchange is kind of like the management of the internal risks, right? And intruder detection is managing the what? External risk. So that's why when you go to here, let me have a look. Don't you love his picture? Beautiful. Okay. When you go to here, notice we're talking about inside organisations and we're talking about outside organisations. See? All right? Inside, outside. All right? Inside, outside. Okay? Right? So we're just linking back the concepts that you learned earlier this semester back into chapter 17 here. Does this make sense? All right? SAPID. It's a long time ago, wasn't it? All right. Control environment, you know that, the two circles. Culture of honesty and eliminating fraud opportunities, right? Remember, we're at the base of that triangle, prevention. What's next? Detection, investigation, legal. Remember? And prevention is the cheapest course of action. Okay. All right, because once you get up, the lawyers get involved and, yeah, budget goes out the window. Absolutely. All right, so this is kind of my summary of chapter 17, how it links into concepts and frameworks that you have seen earlier. Okay? All right. So, you know, there's a nice slide that summarises again, all right? Control environment, risk assessment, control activities and procedures. all right, under the perceived opportunity. All right, good. All right, so let's have a look at control environment, DR risk assessment, and control activities. All right, this is why it affects you in the future. Look, startups and venture capital go where the future opportunities lie. Okay, all right, and if you can make up a page of all these startups, and there's more than that, but these are just the e-commerce fraud protection ecosystem. This isn't the e-commerce business ecosystem. This is just let's just protect e-commerce from fraud. All right? And you've got all these companies out there saying that, oh, you pay us money, we will protect you. Right? And startups don't exist if there's no money to be made. All right? Venture capital goes where opportunities lie. All right? So if you want to get into this area, I would highly recommend that you seek out a startup and try and get an internship with them. Be 10 times more valuable than going with a traditional company. You will learn a lot. You will learn a lot. Okay. All right. So let's go to some of, and you probably noticed from my video that I looked at the Merchant Fraud Journal, E-commerce Fraud Trends 2024. Well, yeah, look at all the different issues and problems we have to deal with. Okay? And it's only going to get worse going forward. Okay? Yeah. Amazing, amazing. All right. So there are 3 cases, and they cover different areas. The 3 cases, the first one is more about a risk question, okay? Because this darling that manufactures greeting cards is considering moving all its clients to EDI, electronic data interchange, okay? And which is good, right? And they have control in some ways, but then you're asked to do what? The new opportunities that the e-commerce solutions like EDI present for internal and external perpetrators trying to defraud the darling company. So I want each table to write down, got to identify one internal, one external. Okay? Make this one quick. One internal, one external. Who hasn't done this for this table? There's a pinch. There you go. What happened to your table?
Sure.
Because you did very well last week on the quiz. Quick, one each. One internal, one external from each table. And you can write on any whiteboard. The question is, all right, so what new opportunities does moving to EDI present for internal and external perpetrators? Not internal and external customers, we're talking about perpetrators, all right? Fraudsters. All right, one person from each table needs to move to the whiteboard and write something. Just one, you only have to write up one internal, one external. You don't have to write up 10. Okay, just one of each.
Misuse of customer information.
So when we talk about internal, we're talking about things that happen inside the merchant, right? Things that happen inside the organisation. And their connections with the customer.
Get a refund.
Yeah.
You have to do one.
So it's returning like a different kind
So I'd say big count.
it's return fraud.